you're anything like me, you probably love some hot D, and I'm referring to House of the Dragon. Season 3 just wrapped up, and I decided I was going to take on the challenge of ranking every single episode of the season. Not just that, but I'll be putting them on a tier list from S to F tier, and make sure you stay to the end to see the final ranking and my final rating for the season as a whole. I'll also let you know how it stacks up to other seasons of the show. This goes without saying, but of course, spoilers for House of the Dragon and Game of Thrones. And as you're watching this almost hour-and-a-half video, consider subscribing, but only if you feel like I've earned it. I recorded each of my reactions and rankings after watching the episode, so in just a second, you're gonna see me at a completely different apartment because I moved during this. Anyway, without further ado, let's cut to Mac in a different bedroom. Hey, how you doing? I just finished watching episode 1 of season 3 of House of the Dragon, and these are my immediate thoughts and reflections. We start off with one of Daemon's daughters claiming the Eerie Dragon, a sheep stealer, which is quite an interesting name. Does he respond a sheep stealer? Like, automatically? Like, how does he know that that's his name? Speaking of names, the fact that I don't know Daemon's daughter's name is either a point to her character development and how she hasn't been that memorable, or just how damn hard the names are in this show to navigate. But the scene with Aegon getting captured is interesting, and I do think I'm gonna like the dynamic of the two of them together, because they definitely don't seem to be on the same page, which is interesting and fun. It kind of reminds me of the duos that we had traveling around the world of Westeros and Game of Thrones, like the Hound and Arya, or Jaime and Bronn. Examples like that where it's two people that maybe aren't on the same page, but have a common goal. Alicent comes back to King's Landing, and there's immediate misunderstanding with the plan she set in stone for Rhaenyra and then Aemon staying in King's Landing. And as soon as that happened, my instant thought was send a Raven. They just said they're not coming for another 2 days. I'm pretty sure a Raven would get there in time, but then again, I'm no Raven expert. I don't know exactly how long the travel time is between Dragonstone and King's Landing, but fuck it. The first scene we get with Daemon already feels a lot more like season 1 than season 2 of House of the Dragon, and we're getting some good action. He's just slaughtering folks, and it's a good time. It reminds me a lot of the action we got in the Stepstones in the first couple episodes of season 1. When the Starks arrive, it is pretty sweet, and they got a lot of aura. It is pretty cathartic to see a Stark throwing the head of a Lannister like that. But I did feel like that his character is a little strange to be killed off so early and off screen, you know? Like, that Lannister was built up, I forget his name, but the season 2 finale focused a lot on him and his mission in Essos. I didn't think he'd be some great character or anything, but I at least thought he would be a major general that would be taken out in a battle. If you're hearing this and you're thinking, what am I talking about? I wrote this and definitely thought that it was that guy. It turns out it is not the same Lannister, but I couldn't have been the only person who thought they look very similar. Everything I just said still kind of applies because he gets killed off later in the episode anyway, but at least it is during the battle. Now, I'm going to have to talk a lot about my opinions on these characters and storylines going into season 3 just to catch you up to speed to kind of how I feel about them. And I absolutely hate Sir Criston Cole. He is truly one of my least favorite Game of Thrones characters ever. So much so that I don't even care if he dies at this point. Like, he is a worthless little piece of shit that just gets no consequences for his actions. He has had such wasted potential and falls into the same trap as many of people on Team Green, where they are evil and terrible with very little reason for it. He almost becomes an Andrew Tate red-pilled male, but it doesn't seem to really make a lot of sense in his arc, and we don't get to hear when it comes to how he views himself in his knighthood. I think of villains like Cyril from Andor, or even A-Train, or a lot of characters from The Boys, where you understand why they operate and why they have the certain mindset that they do, and you still hate them for it, but you get it. You don't get Criston Cole at all. He's just a fucking weirdo. Him not caring about one of his men of the Kingsguard violating a woman just is emblematic of his character as a whole, and points to how I feel about him in just his first scene of the season. And that is pretty much all we get from him this episode. So another storyline I don't really care for too much is the Sea Snake and Island of Hull, although they get some good moments in this episode. Their performances are great, and that kind of just goes for pretty much everyone in this cast. So often their acting outshines the writing, and even though their character decisions don't make a lot of sense to me, their acting sells it for a lot of their major scenes, often completely outshining the writing itself. We get the first look at a major Hightower family here, and I just gotta say, they are clean as hell. Like, I mean, literally they are clean, and they think that this guy stinks, but, you know, I that's fair. And hold up, is that Brasso from Andor? Bro, oh, that's my fucking boy. I may be the only person to catch this casting, but whatever. But if you also did, and you're just a fan of Andor in general, feel free to go check out my other video ranking every episode of that show. Now, getting to the scene with Aemon and his mother doing that thing that they do. Yeah, I heard about this being a rumor before the episode came out, and let me just say, it wasn't as bad as I was expecting. I know, hear me out. I know that's crazy, and it's not for the weird reasons. It's more so considering how Alicent is playing into his weaknesses and trying to convince him to do something. And it's not like this scene is coming out of nowhere. This was set up last season. I will say I don't know how Alicent knows that this will convince her son to do what she wants, or that he's even into that, but I guess you can just assume most Targaryens are freaked the fuck out, so...
They're incestuous aliens, Duncan.
Good call. I do like this moment for Alicent because, one, her acting is amazing, but also she's always used her sexuality as a weapon to manipulate others, and this goes from the very first episode where Otto sends her to comfort the king. Now, getting the crazy shit of this episode, I have to say, Jace's death was telegraphed way too much. Jace shows the exact same haste that Aegon has before he goes into battle and gets burned, and you kind of can tell that something bad is going to happen, but in your head, you're like, well, last time he just got burned and really should have died, but he didn't, so there's no way that he's about to live. They had to go all out this time, and they did, even though it was kind of a more subtle and quaint death. Besides my last sentence, I wrote everything here before he died, because that's how confident I was that he was going to die. It was that obvious. Jace really is wasted potential when it comes to this show, and I believe that his story and his character could have been done so much better and given so much more depth. I'm okay with him wanting to protect his mother, and Rhaenyra argues that it's because she's a woman, I think, but I don't really get that from Jace. I don't think that he's doing it out of misogyny, but more out of care and lineage for the throne. I mean, it is his mom after all. Why would he want her to die? Getting to the actual Battle of the Gullet itself, this is a beautiful sight, and it is the best set piece of the entire show, point blank period, and I will fall victim to the hype a little bit. This girl Euron Greyjoy ripoff is just another baseless, strange character like him, and the whole battle does remind me at the beginning, especially, of the season 7 battle where he takes the Iron Fleet. The Sea Snake is aura farming a lot in this episode, and it's cool, but like there are points where it's like, bro, like, what are you looking at right here? Where are you looking? The dragons aren't even that way. The most tense moment of the episode, and one of my favorite parts, is the passage the Sea Snakes takes through the ravine, because it is a uniquely tense moment that is shot well and feels grounded in its tactics. Seeing the boat get closer and closer to the rocks and feeling the tension of having to direct himself through this narrow passage, it's a unique framing device for some tension in the show, and I really did enjoy it. When he finally gets through, seeing High Tide on fire is crazy, and his shock is very much portrayed in his performance. The visuals in this episode, just overall, are gorgeous, except for a couple of bad green screen moments, but it's not even with the dragons, it's with the people on the boat. The dragons, I think, actually look fantastic. I mean, that is definitely a consistent positive of this show. Honestly, I gotta check what the budget was for this episode. People are saying it's around 20 million per episode, but I feel like they had to pump a little bit extra into this one. Speaking of the dragons looking great, here comes Sheep Stealer to not pick a side. I think that it makes a lot of sense for him to be killing both sides because, yeah, this dude is not trained at all. Just earlier this episode, he was a fucking menace, and I don't know why she would ride him into battle immediately. I understand she has some urgency, but she doesn't even know the context of the battle. She doesn't even know who's fighting who, or if there's any dragons already there. Maybe she sees them going into it, but I also kind of want to give some credit to Sheep Eater. I doubt he knows the Valyrian that he's being told. Like, one, I mentioned how does he even respond to his name, but when she goes, pursue Moondancer, is the dragon like, who the fuck is that? Moondancer. Also, saying pursue does kind of sound like you want to fuck him up, so I don't blame him there. I love some of the shots that are underwater in this episode, including Jace's death. That is a beautiful shot. Just like the shot those people did with those arrows. Absolutely beautiful shots, fellas. All in all, this was a really solid start to the season, but it can't just be carried by the spectacle. And while the characters are still lacking, I'm no better than anybody else in just admitting that this was a very cool battle. This is easily the best sea battle we've ever seen in the Game of Thrones universe, and I'm excited for what's to come, but I am skeptical, and I would not bet all my cards just because this is one really strong episode. I would agree with what most people are saying, and that it should have been the season 2 finale, but I also understand why they wanted to save this insane, bombastic battle for the next season. I get it. But as a whole, this episode is a strong start, and I'm going to put it right in the A tier. I'll see y'all in a couple seconds for episode 2. Deuces. Hey guys, full disclosure, that clip was like 2 weeks ago, and episode 3 comes out in like an hour. I just never recorded my thoughts initially, but I definitely did write it down, and that kind of just means I have more time to process this episode. And boy, episode 2 is a lot of process. So buckle up and let's get into it. We start this episode with more of the visuals that I love under the water, like from last episode during the battle, and seeing a dragon breathe fire above through the water is just gorgeous. I can't remember his name, but the guy who blocks Rhaenyra in her door walks up, realizing how cooked he is when he sees dead Jace. This is the first instance of it, but it will be my biggest praise for the episode as a whole. But Emma Darcy's performance is Emmy-worthy, and they are a absolute powerhouse. When she sees Jace and speaks to him, it gave me full body chills. And they kill it every scene that they have to be emotional this episode.
How could you do this to me?
That same Kingsguardman makes it all about himself, and honestly, I am glad that she did not kill him then and there. He's fucking stupid. Like, read the fucking room, dude. She knows what you did. Time and place, bro. Time and place, because this is not it.
I mean, the vibe's ruined now, dude.
We then cut to Daemon, who is celebrating a victory that apparently was a very major bloody battle in the book, but they didn't show that in this. I don't really mind because I don't really know what I'm missing out on, but I am upset that they are flexing that they killed a bunch of lions and we didn't get to see that. I want to see some lions fighting. That would be sick. Like, we can watch dragons fight, but we can't watch lions. Come on now, what are we doing? Scenes like this in cinema where it's just like they're singing a song and everyone's taking turns singing, like, how do they know when it's their turn? Do they rehearse this shit? Are they putting this on Spotify later? Like, are there ever awkward moments where two people try to chime in at the same time and then it's like, oh no, you go, no, you could go? Like, we get our one scene with Aegon and Loras this episode, and it's maybe the only time that Loras is funny in the whole show. And Aegon is just shanking this dude, and apparently he's okay to walk around, but I'm fine with that. I don't really care. I really like this plot, if I'm going to be honest. It's a fun time. To be honest, I think it may be the storyline I'm excited to see play out the most, which is very unexpected for me, as Loras and Aegon are two characters that I was interested in, but they were never my favorites. The Valyrian family, or what's left of it, gather and have a kind moment where Corlys gives Alan his name, his last name, but not his brother, who's right there, I guess? I mean, it's a nice moment, but has he not earned it yet, I guess? He's riding a dragon. That's pretty hard to just... whatever, okay. The scene with Mysaria and Daemon is kind of heavy-handed in fully spelling out a key aspect of the main dynamic of the show. And it's like, we know. You don't need to talk about their old dynamic of Alicent and Rhaenyra. We understand their past, okay?
There were girls together, as all know. Do you believe, after what has since transpired, that there is some bond between them still?
I honestly think it's probably the most atrocious scene of the episode, and it kind of is talking down to the audience, in my opinion. In addition, I just think Mysaria is an overall underdeveloped character, and we have no clue what her end goal is. I know she's playing sides, and there's obviously a power hungriness to her, but with lines that point to one thing, and then there are also lines that point to another, it's kind of hard to get a pinpoint focus on what she wants. Something that also wasn't made clear at all in the last episode is that Jace is the only one who saw diet nettles on the back of Sheep Stealer. So therefore, the Blacks now think the Greens have a new dragon. That is interesting to me, but maybe they could have conveyed that better, because I definitely thought that Baela saw Rhaena, but who knows. Daemon mentions Dany to Rhaeny again, and he inspires her to keep fighting because of it, but I don't really think that's a great reason. I'd rather her be a little bit more selfish, because I feel like that'd be fair. But if they want to keep forcing this connection to Game of Thrones, I guess they can do it. I just think that it doesn't do anything for me and most of the audience as far as I can see. I know I said that other scene was pretty bad, but this is actually definitely the worst scene of the episode, because I don't know about you, but I did not remember Lord Jasper at all. But he attempts to do something to Alicent out of nowhere, and it adds absolutely nothing to her character, his character, because he dies later in the episode, and nothing really comes from it. I think it's an attempt to make Alicent more of an interesting character, but I don't see that at all. Maybe there will be a scene in a later episode where she talks about and unpacks her feelings about what just happened, but kind of they just move on from it pretty easily. It was just overall a disturbing and transparently out of nowhere scene. Speaking of out of nowhere and semi-pointless, the editors threw in an aura farming clip of Rhaenyra for no reason that was definitely just used in the trailers. I remember seeing it, and there's absolutely no context for it. But then it does lead into an in-context aura farm where most of Team Black's dragons fly to King's Landing, and yeah, it's sick as fuck. Cutting back to Alicent and Helena, she keeps proving why she's the only innocent character with lines like this.
I will not have any beast harmed.
Then we get to see Aemon pull up to Harrenhal, and him and Vhagar immediately go crazy. And I know this will feed TikTok edits for years to come. Aemon is just tearing folks down, and it is a complete parallel to Daemon. And then when he goes in and sees the small council, it's the exact opposite thing, where he immediately kills all the Strongs, including the Diva, who will be sorely missed. And then I guess he lets his guard down and gets stabbed by one of his sons. But I'm not going to lie, this is a very contrived plot point in my opinion. Not only do I not believe that the knife would go through his armor, but I also don't think it'd be a life-threatening injury, so much so that he's on the floor and cannot move within a minute. Obviously, Walmart Missandre is going to help him and kind of just do the same thing that she did for Daemon and probably give him some type of clarity, and she's obviously doing it out of spite for Daemon treating her like shit. But I'm just tired of the obvious foils that these two characters are of Daemon and Aemon. I mean, it's so obvious in multiple ways, like name, look, even the jawline is the same. Not to mention, when we cut to Daemon, not even 10 minutes later, he gets the exact same aura farming moment where he is just tearing through people. Once they finally take King's Landing, the throne room scene did put a smile on my face, even if the timing is slightly comedic. It's like one group comes in, and then another group comes in, and it kind of felt like Monty Python, but I don't know. I was okay with it, and I did not know who was on whose side. I am once again confused on the deal struck by Alicent and Rhaenyra, considering the deal was safety and a peaceful life for her and Helena, was it not? Which I would assume would be assured by Rhaenyra and the Black Army just by, taking her and making sure she gets to safety. But instead, Alicent goes out on her own with Helena, trying to escape King's Landing like a peasant, which is never a good idea. Someone could easily have just grabbed them and harmed them just because of who they are and the fact that they're royal. And I'm sure Rhaenyra wouldn't have killed them as long as she didn't have to make an example out of them like Otto, which I don't think would be the case, and as long as, she held up her end of the deal. Speaking of Otto, the grand return of Otto Hightower ends the episode on a high note, for sure. Daemon is having one of the best days of his life, meanwhile Rhaenyra is having one of the worst, and Daemon is once again obviously manipulating Rhaenyra, as he clearly has a vendetta against Otto, which is seen in literally the first episode of the entire show. So Daemon makes it so he's revealed to the public, and Rhaenyra has to publicly kill him to make an example out of him. I love that at first she misses, and you think many things. Honestly, I thought at first maybe it was on purpose, or maybe it wasn't an accident, or that Daemon will just go and slice the head off, but when the sword finally goes through his head, the death is very jarring and brings an end to a character that, yes, while I would have liked to see more of, I do feel satisfied with his arc, and he died as a result of his own actions. And that would have been a great ending as is, and just when you think that it's a big, boom, ending, major character death, Alicent walks in, and you get full body chills again. I mean, this episode had highs and lows, but the highs I did truly love. I mean, the pacing of the season already feels much better than the first two, because while we are not time jumping around and going years and years and years like season 1, we're also not taking super long for big major events to happen like in season 2. And in just these 2 episodes, major moments and decisions that have been building have occurred, and I've been pretty gripped. Now, it does make me worried about the rest of the season because I don't want them to blow their load too early, metaphorically, but hopefully they can keep up this pace and keep something going. And honestly, I have no idea where they go from here. I don't know what they're going to do with Alicent and Helena besides maybe put them in prison. They're definitely not going to kill them, at least not then and there. Either way, somehow this episode managed to exceed or at least meet the same level of episode 1, and it didn't have a big battle. And that's mainly because of Emma Darcy's performance. I mean, the way that they act in that throne room scene compared to the beginning of the episode is just amazing. Like, what a dynamic performance. Not only that, but the cinematography still looks really good, and there's amazing shots. Everyone is talking about the shot of the blood puddle of Otto's blood and Rhaenyra ascending the throne in the back. And then also her footsteps being painted in blood as well. It also doesn't hurt that Kristen Cole wasn't in it, so that's a 2 thumbs up for me. Well, I do still have some issues with it, and there are some slower scenes that don't add much. That was the same way in episode 1 as well, but when it came to bat, I do feel like it knocked it out of the park, even slightly more than episode 1. So this one's also going to get an A tier. I'm saving some room hoping for an S this season, and mainly because I prefer character moments over scale, I think I'm going to say that I prefer this one overall. And I am back. I am sorry if I look tired. It has been a long day. Let's get into it though. Episode is called Rhaenyra the Triumphant, which is a great title, considering how ironic it is. We instantly start with Daemon ore farming. Like, it is mandatory every episode we have to have a scene like this. And yeah, he kind of wins a little standoff with Ormond, where he bends the knee, takes his army home, and that's kind of that. But Daeron Targaryen is here and taken by Daemon. As we slide slowly into the intro, the music kind of fades in. I much prefer that when a show does that. I don't know if they always did that. Succession was very good at it, but I know for sure Game of Thrones didn't have a fade in intro. It would just start. A lot of the notes that I have here are written from the perspective of not knowing that Daeron isn't Daeron, but just keep that in mind. So for example, I say Daeron ain't no snitch and keeps those lips sealed. I guess he did. Larys has robbed the bank pretty much, and the homies in King's Landing are broke. Not only that, but King's Landing is so rough right now and that Rhaenyra just can't get crowned at all. They don't have the money for it. Too many issues going on, and that's pretty much the crux of the episode. We don't get any other perspectives in this episode. It's just Rhaenyra, which I do think is purposeful. And as we go through, I'll kind of tell you what I think about that. She finally gets to make some of her own calls in this episode, which I really love, such as getting all the noble houses to donate money as a tribute to her and to kind of prove their loyalty. And in addition to that, she just says she's done with her small council that's left in Dragonstone. The only reason she has as much agency as she does in this episode is because Daemon just doesn't give a fuck all of a sudden and is just riding the high of winning the war, which I get. He pretty much won it all by himself. Rhaenyra is just being overwhelmed with the terrible state of King's Landing and just the kingdom as a whole. But the main problem is that she's inheriting it in a state of disarray because of other people, not herself. I'll expand on that later. But first, Alicent and Helaena are just chilling. They have no issue with what's going on. They're not in a cell or in prison or anything, which I guess is fair. Alicent proposes that Rhaenyra just claim Aegon as dead because he's unrecognizable, but that is proven incorrect when in episode 1, he is indeed recognized. So, yeah, no. The blonde hair is also very distinct. In fact, that's what they did in this episode, which I guess does kind of prove her point that there could be frauds and false claims to the throne, but I truly believe Rhaenyra is being fair by saying to the Hightowers they can't leave until Aegon is found, because that is what was promised. Even still, she's treating them nicely and not keeping them prisoner. She's feeding them and dressing them, not treating them terribly. Alicent shouldn't have offered up Aegon if she can't hold up her end of the offer. That's just kind of how these things work, which I just want to remind you, I think is crazy. That she'd offer up her own son to die. We have to remember that's insane. Rhaenyra then sees a Zoolander-style vision of Jace walk by as he mogs her. Rhaenyra has a little squabble with the High Septim, who wants her to not make an enemy of the faith, which, as we know from seasons 5 and 6 of Game of Thrones, is, never really a good idea. Honestly, especially for women. No one really talks about how sexist the church is. I mean, they let Jaime get away with everything, but Cersei has to, get tomatoes thrown at her. There's a pretty funny scene where Corlys tells Rhaenyra about the legitimacy of her sons, and she says that she didn't guess they were related, but now she kind of sees it, I guess, in an effort to not seem racist, I believe. But she's trying her best. She's got a lot to handle right now. Corlys asks Rhaenyra to legitimize her kids, which is something apparently only the crown can do, and also name Adam as his heir. And she kind of freaks out about it, which I didn't understand at first. We get a little more explanation later. But I will say when I watched the scene, I didn't see any reason not to. I mean, he says the Valyrian family line will end with him if he doesn't pick an heir, and considering where we know the Valyrians go by Game of Thrones, kind of does make just the entirety of House Valyrian more tragic. Rhaenyra holds a public court and learns that capitalism has fully sunk its teeth into King's Landing, and all the landlords have turned their places into Airbnbs, leaving nothing for the small folk. And I wish that was an exaggeration. That's not even a joke, that's pretty much what it is. Here's my biggest critique for the episode. Rhaenyra going crazier while having to inherit King's Landing is something I wish was more of a result of her issues or things that she's caused, and not just results of other people. For example, she constantly sees rats all around King's Landing and the castle, and if she were the one who sent the rat catchers to kill Aegon's son, then the rats everywhere would be more of a reminder that she had an innocent child killed, just like how Jace was killed as well, which would also serve as a reminder to that. But like so many decisions in this show, it really is the men's actions that she's facing the consequences of, which maybe that's poignant in itself and purposeful. But if we're going to make her go mad, which I can only assume is where we're going, but like I said, I haven't read the books, I'd rather her own actions push her to that point and for her to get increasingly more evil and sinister. And as if things couldn't get any worse, she has her period, which really just hammer homes the themes of this show. The 3 dragon riders are knighted in this episode, and I think I've finally fully come around to feeling bad for and relating to Ulf. I mean, he's just trying his best. Rhaenyra asks Alicent for some advice on ruling, and she honestly does give some interesting notions here about closing your heart to other people and their pain because you'll have to let some people die and you cannot please everybody on the throne. But once again, because of the pacing of season 1, we didn't really get to see Alicent ruling all that much. I do like and accept this as a factor in how she's become the character she is, but it's another example of the show telling instead of showing. The climax of the episode, in my opinion at least, is when Rhaenyra holds a dinner with the wealthy class of King's Landing, feeding them dead rats, which is probably killing 2 birds with 1 stone, as it handles the rat problem and shows an example to the landlords and the wealthy folk. And while this is all happening, she has the Kingsguard go into their houses and pretty much tax the rich, which I love. This is awesome. Let's have this happen in real life. I love this because it's a morally gray, slightly sinister course of action that Rhaenyra takes, all on her own without any outside influence. Like, this is the kind of agency I want her to have as queen moving forward. And now we get to my most frustrating scene of the episode. Daemon kind of throws out his whole character motivation of wanting to unite the realm against the White Walkers by urging Rhaenyra to go conquer Dorne, Essos, and pretty much the larger world, which would not only be a distraction from that cause, but is also completely unreasonable considering all the issues they're currently facing with just King's Landing alone. Rhaenyra then has a Last Jedi Luke moment where she's about to kill Daeron, but then it's kind of left open-ended on whether she does or doesn't. One of the more questionable decisions of the episode is when Rhaenyra denies Adam's legitimacy to save face and avoid questioning her own children's claims as heirs, which causes Corlys to pull out the same tactic his brother used. Bastards! And we all know that did not go well. Thank God Daemon was not in the room. I will say I am fully on Corlys' side here, as she is queen, and we've pretty much seen that whoever holds the position of the throne can pretty much do whatever they want or decide to claim whatever they want, although I understand that as a woman, she's under higher scrutiny. However, even if the small folk questioned the legitimacy of her children, I'm pretty sure they already did that before, and they would anyway, so that really wouldn't change things in the end. The episode ends with a major twist, that Ormond tricked Rhaenyra, and that Daeron is not Daeron. Honestly, I really like this. it got me, and now I'm very intrigued and excited to see where the story goes from here. Overall, I really like this episode. I think the title is ironic, like I mentioned, and I like the struggle that Rhaenyra is going through. She feels like she has some agency in the story at the moment, and she makes some decisions on her own accord, which is something me and many fans have been begging for. Unfortunately, it is a step down from the previous 2 episodes in my opinion, but we knew it was going to come to this eventually, and it's not a knock on the episode, to be honest. I think I would have preferred if we gotten some other storylines to break up the pacing, but it also did make it feel like we are fully in Rhaenyra's perspective the entire time, so I do think it was purposeful. I do just kind of miss Aegon and Loris's story. That is really fun, and I care less about whether or not Aemon is okay because I know he is, but overall I'm going to put this under the first 2 episodes in the B tier. Still a very strong episode. No pun intended, man. Rest in peace, Jace. And bang, we are on episode 4, Tumbleton, and I'm moving, so ignore that, I guess. I predict this episode will be a very Team Green focused one, and maybe perchance very Aegon heavy, or maybe even Aemon. We shall see. We start this episode in its namesake, Tumbleton, where we see firsthand why the Third Amendment is so important, and honestly one of my favorites. Speaking of favorite, my favorite Maester Ormond gets a promotion while Rhaenyra decides on whether or not to send her army or just dragons to Tumbleton. Something is telling me no matter what she does, it's going to be the wrong choice, but we'll see about that. The first part that I really love about the episode is Rhaenyra and Alicent's conversation, where Alicent is given more agency and explains why she sent Daeron away to be raised as a high tower. This is a good moment for her, much needed, and it honestly shows her doing something and being brave and making a choice for herself. I also love how Rhaenyra asks her,
"You know I would have spared him."
not like as a statement, like I would have spared him, but as a question, like, do you know me? Do you understand me enough to know I wouldn't? And honestly, I don't know if Alicent knows that or not. I don't know if we know that, but she definitely thought about it. We get to reunite with my favorite duo, Aegon and Loras, and I love the quiet scene of meeting Sunfire and having a moment between him and Aegon, and then that being followed by a very tense scene where they're being threatened and Loras has to kind of smooth talk them out of the situation. Like, this is a dynamic I really love, of Loras being slick, but Aegon just not buying into anything at all times. Unfortunately, Kristen Cole is in this episode, and he shows up to Harrenhal where Aemon is completely missing and Alice has nothing to say about it. He's being a whiny bitch again, and for some reason quotes Gwaine about being honorable as he pitches the least honorable way of attacking Team Black. Checking back in with the Loras and Aegon plot, we see them passing through a group of people picking the dead soldiers' bodies in a very similar scene to what we saw in A Night of the Seven Kingdoms. And man, I just love being reminded about that show. I just love being reminded about how great Game of Thrones is right now at all. Even if this season isn't as good as A Night of the Seven Kingdoms, which it most likely will not be, this is still a great year for Game of Thrones, even if it just keeps up this same pace. This is a really good, just cherry on top, just because of A Night of the Seven Kingdoms being that good. Anyway, the pair get threatened by Phineas and Ferb, and Aegon is forced to shovel shit and piss, which I just love, because this storyline is exactly what this character needs. Some more shit goes down in Tumbleton, which reminds me of a certain scene from Andor, but this is done way worse in my opinion. It's just another scene adding to the list of assaults in this season that are, for the most part, semi-pointless and are really just done for shock value. But this one I could maybe forget because I like that it ends up with Ormond getting a litmus test of how evil he really is. You know, is he gonna defend and support the grapist, or is he going to have some type of justice? I'm hoping with all of my being that he does not let this guy get away with it, so that the story can be a little bit more complex and nuanced, but I don't have hope. I mean, if this guy supports that, then there's no redemption. It's just another insanely evil person on Team Greed. And thank fucking God this story is nuanced, because he doesn't support that shit. I already like this high tower threat much more than the Targaryen threat. I mean, the Targaryen on Targaryen violence, like Viserys' sons, you know, even though I love Aegon. Daemon returns to the Vale, Moon Door and all, and Caraxes eventually takes him to exactly where Rhaena is, and this scene is electric because under normal circumstances Daemon would immediately kill whoever was responsible for the prince's death. But the fact that it's his own daughter, even if it's someone he hasn't really cared much about in the past, it's still interesting. and I'm excited to see how he goes about this situation. Another aspect I really like about this scene is the dragon standoff, and the ending choice that Daemon is left with is really fascinating. I'm excited to see if he'll protect his daughter or lie or be treasonous like he words it. We'll find out a little bit later though. Ulf gets his beer privileges revoked and reacts very reasonably, I might add. Honestly, it was kind of an underreaction.
What?
There's a tense scene where Aegon does his best Adam Warlock impression.
Let's not be hasty.
Don't be rash.
His best Vito impression from The Sopranos as well, because after one day of work, he cannot stand it and immediately crashes out and loses his shit.
Fuck me!
Daemon brings in a fake head saying it's Sheep Stealer's rider, and I love that we don't actually have to see him take the random person down. We just assume that he killed that farmer. But Daemon fans won't acknowledge all the random people that he's killed over the years for very selfish reasons, such as the guy who he used as Laenor's body.
He was the best guy around.
What about the people he murdered?
What murder?
Speaking of season 1, and specifically episode 1, the Gold Cloaks have a scene that really invokes them ransacking the village and just destroying King's Landing. I guess this is just how they act under Daemon. I gotta say the standout of this episode is Ormond, because I really do love him as a villain. This little pampered, Christian pushing, temper tantrum throwing fuck shines in every scene this episode, and I love when he goes fucking balls to the wall Kylo Ren style. But obviously, once he gets to the scene where he makes Darren kill that guy, I kind of take back everything I said about him not condoning assault, but at least he's still a little bit more interesting of a villain than just being evil like Kristen Cole, for example. Speaking of Darren, I really like him this episode. He's kind of sympathetic. I think you're supposed to root for him, but it's kind of surprising that he hasn't already been this evil, terrible guy since he's been raised by Ormond. I'm not sure how he stayed so pure. He's already a much more interesting character than Gwaine, but that's kind of not fair because you got Ormond to play off of, or you got Sir Kristen Cuck, and I would rather play off of Ormond for sure. Something else I love about this scene is that he doesn't behead him in a merciful way. He just puts him out in a really kind of brutal just stab to the heart. Overall, this is a very solid episode, but somehow it didn't really feel like we progressed much in the story. I guess that's fair considering how fast we were going before this, but I really hope the pacing doesn't hinder too much, and I hope we stay kind of consistent this season. We got some other storylines in this episode that were missing from the last one, but I still prefer that last episode because it was more of a risky, experimental episode that only had you through the driver's seat of Rhaenyra. However, still not a bad episode at all. It's going to be in the B tier as well, and it's going to be last at the moment under the last episode, but still solid. Now, by the next time I record episode 5, I will be in a completely different room. Hopefully it looks a little bit cooler. I'll see y'all in 3, 2, 1. As you can see, I've moved. New setup, hell yeah. And we are on to episode 5, which I have some thoughts about. To start, I'm not sure if it was just the TV I was watching on, but this episode was dark as hell. Like, for me, it was similar to The Long Night, like that level of dark. I had barely any idea what was going on in like the first 10 minutes of the episode, especially with all the Harrenhal bullshit haunted house. We see Sir Kristen Cole launch a sneak attack he talked about last episode on the Tully forces, and then we see Alice Rivers just fucking become Batman and vanish into the night like that. I know she's a witch, but I'm confused on exactly what her powers really are. And hey, the cats are in the Red Keep, hell yeah. Orwell delivers the abortion potion to Helena, and she won't take it, no matter how much Alicent tries to force it down her throat. And I respect that. She just keeps proving why she's the best character. Maybe not best, the most innocent, the most kind. Lord Big Belly Beesbury Lord Big Belly Beesbury is filling in the new member of the council on all the tea that happens in this room, and it's pretty fucking hilarious. I don't really understand who this woman is or what her role in the council is. It was probably mentioned. I think she's a member of the Strong family or something because she was talking about something to do with Harrenhal. The Red Keep is pretty much under a government shutdown because none of their employees are getting paid, and no one agrees on how to handle the countless issues that they face. There's been this strange flip-flop between Rhaenyra and Daemon in their motivations right now that is really bugging me, but it's definitely more on Daemon's end. Just 2 episodes ago, Daemon was pressuring her to attack to pretty much take over the realm. And now that she wants to send him to the Riverlands to handle that whole conflict, his priority is King's Landing all of a sudden. He doesn't want to leave anywhere. I mean, I guess it's because he cares about the Gold Cloaks because they're kind of like, you know, his dudes, but there's just no consistency with Daemon. His character is just always a little wishy-washy, and it's a little frustrating. We see that Aegon and Loras have left Rook's Rest and are trying to find Aemon just to kill him all of a sudden. But I thought Aegon forgot or didn't remember Aemon trying to burn him or successfully burning him. So I'm not really sure why he's so pissed now all of a sudden, or what happened to trying to find Criston Cole in Rook's Rest. I'm pretty sure that was their original objective. But no, apparently he's on some bloodthirsty, vengeful death quest, and he's trying to kill his brother.
I'm going to find him and fucking kill him, or die in the attempt.
One of my favorite scenes of the episode is with, surprisingly, Mysaria and Alicent, where Alicent has to pretend that the abortion potion was for her, and she drinks it right there on the spot. And I was kind of freaking out when she did it. I was like, oh man, how's this going to affect her? Is she going to be okay? Is she going to get sick? But I guess we'll see. No, actually, we won't see. I mean, we will, barely. There'll be one scene where she's looking a little pale, maybe a little less, I don't know, glowing than normal, but she's pretty much fine. I thought it would affect her in some way because she isn't pregnant, but it's whatever. But that definitely means that Helena is having this baby, and all the Maekor or Maelor theories are true. We cut to Gwaine and Criston Cole a couple times in this episode to see their whole expedition, and one such scene is where they get caught by some tire traps and their horses are cut through the foot, and it's honestly pretty hard to watch. You get to see some really unfortunate horse violence that I'm not a fan of. There's also this known presence in King's Landing that's openly moving against the throne, moving against Rhaenyra, and killing the Gold Cloaks by disemboweling them. It's a similar kind of uprising of the Sons of the Harpy in Game of Thrones and how they kill a bunch of the Kingsguard there. But I wish it was more mysterious on who was doing this or what exactly is going on. But no, we find out it's just Ormond. Ormond Hightower's just sending ravens over, and we only get one scene with him and Dara on this episode, which is kind of depressing. I wanted to see more of them. Alicent hatches a plan to get the fuck out of there with the baby, but not including Helena's other daughter for some reason, even though I don't see why they couldn't just take her. It's not like she's some type of, like, I don't know, burden in some way. It's not like she got caught. Like, they already tried to escape with her in the first place, and she wasn't the reason they got caught. They got caught because they were being stupid. We finally find out what's going on with Aemon, and he's being held by Alice, both literally and metaphorically, while Vhagar is just on her own, trying to survive and not die, I guess. And this leads him to finally admitting the truth.
Without her, I'm nothing.
Looking back at all the kills that he's gotten, that is very much true. Another great scene is where Loras calls out Aegon on all of his bullshit, as Aegon's throwing another temper tantrum and just being a pile of self-loathing and pity. He points out how Aegon has had every privilege in life and has had everything handed to him on a silver platter, and yet still fucked it up and squandered it. And I'm sure Loras feels some type of resentment because he knows that if he was born into that exact same position, he would be so much better at it. But because he isn't part of some noble house as much, he has to scheme and connive his way into being in the good graces of people more powerful than him. This is why it's easily my favorite dynamic of the season. There's two cripples, one not by choice and the other one caused by stupidity and arrogance. Daemon and Rhaenyra have a great scene where they speak to each other in Valyrian, and these actors, I just gotta praise them and give them their flowers, especially when it comes to when they're speaking in this fictional language. You can absolutely tell that they know what they're saying and how to express it accurately with the emotions that are being portrayed. And a lot of times these emotions are high in these scenes because they're saying something they don't want other people to hear. They did not need to cook and work so hard on making this made-up language feel real, but I'm glad that they did. And now for maybe the stupidest part of the episode, Tywin Lannister somehow just randomly shows up at Rook's Rest, which I beg they actually explain. Helena and Alicent get caught by the White Worm, and Alicent smooth talks her way out of, being captured, and she lets him go, kind of saying you'll get some clout with the Hightowers. Aemon then also saves Alice Rivers from another random assault scene in this season. It is getting gratuitous. Every single episode, there has been some type of attempt on a woman's body, and it's getting out of hand. It doesn't add much to the story, and it's a pitfall that the writers need to stay away from because it's not making these women more developed. It's honestly making them more shallow because they move on like nothing happened. These are traumatic events and they should be taken seriously. If we go every episode having a scene like this, I will be upset this season. We check in with Kristen, Cole, and Gwaine multiple times in this episode, like I mentioned, but somehow the Tully forces are always ahead of them, and they can't catch up until they eventually hit a bridge that they can't cross. But somehow Cole is still determined to die, and you know what? I'm fully on his side. Please, just die, I guess. There's this big final monologue that Cole gives to his men that kind of ends the climax of the episode. Daemon finds the Gold Cloak slaughtered in this almost Last Supper-esque massacre. Alicent makes her escape through a secret tunnel that I guess is blocked, and I'm not really sure what this scene is leading to. I think they're being lost in there or something. And Cole finally prepares to die and take his men into battle, which Gwaine cannot support. It makes me think we're going to get a really cool big battle next episode where maybe he will die, but I don't know how satisfying that'll be, especially to me. I mean, I hate him, but giving him what he wants, I don't like that either. This definitely is not my favorite episode. There are some great scenes like Loras and Aegon's little squabble, and there are some decent stuff with Alicent, but there are stupid scenes like Tylan still being alive with no explanation. If you set up that people will drown if they're wearing heavy armor in that battle, and then he gets thrown overboard in said heavy armor, you can't just have him magically reappear without explaining how exactly he made it out of the situation you specifically wrote that he would die in. I really like a lot of what Alicent was doing with this episode. She had a lot to chew on, having to work around the child that Helena won't give up, and also having to deal with the White Worm. And I guess in tandem, the White Worm had some good scenes, but it feels more like it's furthering her position in the realm more than it's furthering her character, which is still at this point very flat. And we only get one scene with Ormond and Dara on this episode, which I could have used maybe one or two more. I know we got a lot of them last episode, but that doesn't mean we need to lose them completely. They're very important to the story, and I'm enjoying their dynamic. I think this is going to be the first C tier of the season, and definitely the worst episode so far for me, but it's still not bad. It's definitely passable. There were worse episodes in season 2, and I'm sure next episode is going to be much better, especially if there's a big battle like I'm predicting. Anyway, let me know if y'all fuck with the new setup, and I'll see you guys for episode 6. Episode 6, The Faceless Men. Just the name of the episode got me really excited because I was like, oh, we're getting into some more magic. There's going to be Faceless Men. Are we going to see Jack and Hagar or something? That would be so sick. But spoilers, no. I don't really see why this episode is called that. Maybe I missed something, but there was no Faceless Men as far as I saw. But maybe we'll see that later. We start the episode with, as I expected, a sneak attack and Kristen Cole fighting for his life. And it is pretty cool to see some action using a Morningstar or a mace like that. You don't see that all the time, so that is pretty cool. And of course, we add Sir Criston Cuck to the list of major characters unceremoniously killed by arrows. I kind of feel conflicted about his death here, but mostly positive. On one hand, he's getting what he wants kind of by dying at the hands of the enemy for the sake of Alicent. But on the other hand, he's really not getting what he wants. He doesn't get to go out in a blaze of glory and some amazing battle. There's probably not going to be any songs sung about him, and it's honestly going to be rare if Alicent hears about this besides just the fact he died. Not only that, but he's shot by arrows. He doesn't even get a sword fight these people like he wanted to. He wanted to fight Tully, but he couldn't do it. Tully's just aura farming, and says one of the hardest lines I've ever heard.
I made a promise to the dead, Cole. I told them I'd build a sept out of traitors' bones. I don't have near enough bones yet.
And the cherry on top for this scene is that he's shot in the chest first. He gets to look down and process the fact that, oh shit, I'm dead. He was mid-sentence too. He's never gonna make it out of this. Like, he knows he's dead, and that's awesome. He doesn't get a fight. It'd be a little disappointing if he was just immediately shot in the head, but that was a pretty good shot. From a character they act like we should know, I don't know who this is. Kiki Palmer.
Say it, I hope I don't sound ridiculous. I don't know who this man is.
Alicent and Helena are found in the walls almost immediately at the beginning of this episode, and that frustrates me beyond belief. I thought there was going to be some kind of dire situation where they're banging on the walls, no one can hear them. Like, what was the point of them trying to escape like that and then like losing their lantern? Like, that was just such a misdirect of thinking stakes are going to be higher. It honestly makes the ending of last episode much lamer because it doesn't really matter. Finally, we get to see some Baratheons in this show, which is kind of a house I didn't realize we hadn't seen, but after Night of the Seven Kingdoms, I want more Baratheons, please. They're stripped of their armor, and we get back to that later, but first we go to Hugh and Ulf, who are meeting up in Tumbleton, and look, their dragons are cuddling. They're nuzzling. That's so cute. Aww. At this point, there's no doubt in my mind, Ulf will betray Rhaenyra, especially given the line of him saying his life hasn't improved since he's become a dragon rider. And honestly, yeah, I feel bad for him. At this point, I just feel like it's impending, but I hope that it's an effective portrayal. You know what I mean? Like, I hope it's not just some, oh, I go and fly over and join them. I hope he does something with that dragon that she doesn't like. I hope it's a really effective, moving moment, because I don't want Ulf to just be a complete joke. He does have a nuke. Rhaenyra is being very fair with putting Alicent and Helena into stricter conditions because they tried to dip. That's not her fault. They have to be punished. And she was already being very nice to them in the first place. Like, kind of a tough situation. You can't blame her, though. We cut to Logan Paul in the forest.
I really hate to say this. I think there's someone hanging right there.
No, I mean Corlys. He puts a bunch of bodies in the woods in some undisclosed location that is important for later. Just remember, they don't really say where this is, I think on purpose, so that anybody could be here at any time. There's also no explanation of how Corlys knows that Tylan lived. He just says, yeah, tell him Tylan lived. Who reported on this? I don't know. There's everything to do with Tylan is just a little too like, yeah, just buy it, believe it, whatever. Don't think about it. Speaking of, Tylan is burying a body for the dynamic crippled duo. Baela does something in this episode that I really didn't see coming, and I don't think there was build up to it, and I honestly hate everything about it. If you've seen the episode, you know exactly what I'm talking about. But in my opinion, there was a clear kind of family dynamic going on here with these two and Alan as well, especially considering that Baela and Alan were riding around together for the past 2 weeks, and they've had a couple scenes one-on-one, but they didn't really seem like flirting. But honestly, at this point, I don't know what flirting looks like in this show. It just feels like people randomly decide to get horny and make out. But all of this culminates to make this moment even stranger because it's out of complete nowhere. They are related, which is par for the course with the show, and it adds nothing. But I guess they're not quite as related as other characters in the show. Like, there's some distance. Anyway, not trying to justify anything. Gwaine and Ormond finally get to meet, and it really makes me wish we got more development with Gwaine, and I'm hoping he gets more because honestly, I do really like the character. But this standoff between them could have had a lot more oomph if we actually understood him more, because it really does feel like we've gotten to know Ormond a lot more than Gwaine, even though Gwaine was in probably at least double the episodes. Darren reveals to Gwaine and the audience that he sees through Ormond. He knows exactly the power grab that he's going for. He knows he's crazy. He's not an idiot, and that really makes me like this character even more. He knows what being king really means for him in this case and how it's going to affect him and the people he loves. I really love this character and how he doesn't want to be left with Ormond. He knows he was abandoned. He clearly misses his mother and just his family in general, but he's stuck with this fucking psycho. I think he also has a fear of what he'll become if he keeps falling under Ormond's influence. Anyway, you want to see the craziest shit that completely changes the tide of this show? Aemon finds 5 dragon eggs. Like, what the fuck? That's insanely clutch. We needed those a while ago. They keep saying it in the show, but they mention how green team only has 1 dragon to black team 6. And now, suddenly, it's even. I know the eggs aren't going to immediately hatch or anything, but just the fact that they have that option, I'm not really sure how long it takes for dragons to get fully grown, but that could be really, really useful, especially if Aemon just shows out there. But now they need to find some riders. These two finally kiss, and Alice explains her plan to be Lady of the Lake, which is, I guess, a level above Lady of Harrenhal or owning Harrenhal. And Aemon is given the most title of all time, Dragon Lord. It's giving me chills. A lot of people were worried this wasn't going to happen, but Rhaenyra is finally cut by the throne, which I'm still not quite sure how I feel. It is a little wild considering I thought that her getting her period served that purpose, and I thought it was meant to be like a reversal of her being cut by the throne, specifically to do with her being a woman. But in case you're unaware, if the throne cuts you in this show, it's meant to be a way of saying that the throne is rejecting you. And I do like that in this scene, the people that are coming to her that she consistently cannot help are kind of rejecting her as well. This clearly freaks her out because she knows about what this means, so that kind of leads her to spiral for the rest of the episode. Daemon does some stupid Scooby-Doo, let me put on a disguise Star Wars stormtrooper bullshit, and then Ulf gets his ass beat by him, and if I wasn't sure of his betrayal before, I am absolutely sure of it now. The Baratheons show up twice in this episode, but not really. It's a delightful scene of a sneak attack sent by Rhaenyra, where I can't tell if the soldiers are meant to be dirty on purpose to kind of fuck with Ormond, or if they just happen to get dirty along the way. But anyway, their main goal is to take down the High Towers, and to be honest, they would have if Gwaine the Goat was not there. I really enjoy a lot of the creative choices in this scene, such as how the audio goes away when the assassins walk in, showing how Ormond can only think about what he's smelling and seeing. And I also love how he immediately throws up after the carnage, showing his sensitivity to smell, which, like I said, does kind of make me think Rhaenyra planned this on purpose. One of my least favorite scenes of the episode is the scene with Alicent and Rhaenyra towards the end, which is just absolutely crazy. As Alicent reveals that Aemon is alive, which Helaena told her, and they believe she's in Harrenhal, and then that leads to Rhaenyra hatching a plan to kill him with one sword, being Alicent. Alicent is going to deceive him and then stab her own son. Alicent is so beyond saving. This character has lost any semblance of what she was in season 1, and I cannot stand it. I'm genuinely frustrated. It's one thing to agree to let your son die, at least a son that you seem to care less about, but now she really doesn't give a fuck about Aemon apparently, and is going to kill him herself? Like, this is beyond saving. Has she ever killed anyone personally ever? And the first kill she's ever gonna do is her son, who is a master swordsman as well. This makes just not one lick of sense. I mean, at least at first she disagrees to it, I guess showing that she loves Aemon more than Aegon, but that doesn't fucking matter. This is dumb as hell. Maybe the one thing that I really like about this scene, but it's also kind of a reminder of the fall from grace that Alicent has had, is that when she grabs Rhaenyra's arm, when she doesn't want to do it, it's exactly where she stabbed her, and Rhaenyra looks at it for a second, and I like this. I can tell they're thinking about that moment, and I'm thinking about it too, and I'm wondering how we got here. I'm really getting the sense that Helaena will die eventually, considering how many children in this show have died, and along with the fact that not only is she the most sympathetic character, but Alicent seems to be putting all of her stake into her, all of her eggs in one basket. The only thing she seems to care about is whether or not she lives. It's especially crazy because if she goes and kills Aemon, then the green effort is so much weaker because they don't have him and Vhagar, and honestly, that could just lead to pretty much all of her family dying. I mean, we know the Hightowers don't make it to Game of Thrones, so is this her fault? Finally, ending with the last scene, Alicent is heading towards Harrenhal somehow, and Corlys gets ambushed by Ormond's men, who were just in Tumbleton 10 minutes ago in the episode. This makes no sense. I know we don't know exactly where Corlys is. However, are we just teleporting now? I mean, we spent a season and a half with Gwaine and Sir Criston Cole traveling throughout the land, and that only ended this episode. But now, Ormond's men can just teleport and kidnap Corlys for no reason. We're not saying there's no reason to kidnap him. I am excited to see Corlys interact with the Team Green people because they are very much carrying the season, but I'm really afraid we're going in the direction of Game of Thrones and just letting people teleport now. Overall, I did enjoy this one. It's not the worst of the season. It is pretty solid, but it just slowly got worse and worse. I really like the Criston Cole death, especially for a character, which you guys know at this point, I really hate. That wasn't a bad way to do it. There's some great standout scenes, but some are also just very meaningless, and there are things I don't understand, such as the Baela kiss and Alicent's decision to go kill Aemon. Overall, it kind of balances out to be in the B tier, but definitely at the bottom. It's going to go above episode 5, which is in C, but below everything else in that tier. I'll see y'all for the penultimate episode of episode 7. Episode 7, The Dance in Winter. I mean the dragon, not the dance. What is it? Is the Winter's Ball? Somehow, Alicent is already at Harrenhal, and she confronts Aemon pretty immediately, and of course, they kiss again. And they kiss again, and oh my god, they just keep, it gets going, it doesn't stop. And it's a shocking twist, honestly. It did get me. And for me, this was kind of a cheap thrill. Like, yeah, this was crazy, but obviously it's not real. But something I couldn't really understand is, was Alice pretending to be Alicent or using some type of magic to make her look like Alicent? Or was she just having Aemon go so crazy that she was, making him see delusions or something? Either way, my issue with Alicent arriving immediately to Harrenhal still stands because here she is, immediately after a weird sex dream. Now, forgive me here, because maybe last episode was so forgettable that I just don't remember, but why is Daemon immediately rushing to the Vale? I don't remember why this is happening. He's obviously looking for Rhaena, and I have no idea where this urgency is coming from, but he's intense. Alan is begging for him to get legitimized by Baela, saying, hey, pull your strings, you can maybe get the queen to do it, when they notice Sheep Stealer. And I was like, okay, well, that's kind of convenient, but sure, I guess. If we're looking for one dragon, you'll find another one, no complaints. Still, I have no idea how this big-ass dragon Vhagar is just hiding. But when I saw this scene, I did think in my head, man, a sister dragon battle would be pretty cool. Alicent and Aemon reconnect in a strange scene that ends with the killing of Captain Price, which was telegraphed from a mile away, and just makes absolutely zero sense why Rhaenyra would send Alicent with one single soldier to Harrenhal. It was already stupid enough to have Alicent be the one to kill him, but just one soldier against, like, one of the best swordsmen we've seen. Not to say that I think Aemon's a little bit of a fraud, but whatever. It's no surprise that my favorite scene so far in the episode is between Corlys and Ormond, but somehow it's still a little underwhelming. Ormond still keeps exuberating charisma that is honestly infectious, and it reminds me of like a Jonathan Bailey in Wicked. Like, he's just doing this big pompous, like, I don't give a fuck, but he really does kind of give a fuck. I also appreciate how Corlys stands on his morals and doesn't fold to join the Hightower cause, especially given how Ormond plays off the death of his wife, and it's like, yeah, okay, you're really just reinforcing that I'm never going to help you. Like, that was definitely at the forefront of my mind when I was like thinking, why should he not switch sides? Because I'm sure, like many people this season, kind of feeling a little bit more Team Green than ever, but we'll keep that hush. Darren and Gwaine have a moment that I think heavily implies that Gwaine's feelings towards Cole weren't just as a soldier or a companion, but more something with a little bit more of a connection. And he shows a lot of care for the guy, even though he kind of treated him like shit. So maybe Gwaine's into a toxic relationship. I don't judge. Every small council scene this season sucks. It boils down to, is this thing going well? No. Is this thing going well? No. Do we know about this? No. It's just a whole lot of bullshit. And I'm okay with that a couple times. You do really got to show how terrible things are in King's Landing, but not every episode. Come on. But things really take a turn when Rhaenyra finds out that Sheepstealer is alive and most likely doesn't have a new writer. But instead, Daemon lied to her as she expected, which will really reinforce what Masari's been feeding her. Not that it will really matter. Alicent asks Aemon how he and Alice met, and it goes something along the lines of, oh, well, I was killing her family, and then I was going to kill her, but then I started bleeding out of my ass. This whole interaction just plays like the worst son introducing his mom to his weird, off-putting goth girlfriend, and yeah, it's a little awkward. But I hate how the behind-the-scenes people describe this scene as being a weird love triangle.
Episode 7, we established this love triangle between Aemon, Alice, and Alicent.
Please, just stop. Please stop. We're getting into some like Rick and Morty season 7 territory I'm not enjoying. But the scene freaks both parties out so much that Alicent goes to grab the knife off of Captain Price, but instead finds like Lily of the Valley or something to poison Aemon. Don't worry, we don't really see how she does that, but she does. Actually, now that I'm thinking about it, it may be the poison that the people in Dorne used to kill Jaime's daughter, because I think they kiss again, but okay, then that's just lame fan service for a storyline that nobody even really liked. Aegon has a scene very reminiscent of last episode's Kristen Cole scene where he decides he doesn't want to die a coward or nobody with no history written by other people. He wants to die as a king, and I think this is a much better scene overall. Not only is his character consistent and served up to this point, but also Loras and Tylan have good moments that really enforce kind of how Loras is pretty scummy, little rotten scoundrel, and Tylan actually has some honor here. I mean, he's the one who finds out that the army is actually after him after finding out that he's alive somehow. And the most in-character moment is Loras making an excuse and just dipping, saying he'll make sure his king's history is written as he wishes. And I believe Aegon lets him go because Loras was actually honest with him and gave him awakening about how terrible a person he is. It reminds me of that scene in season 5 of The Boys, one of actually my favorite scenes of the season, where Homelander lets the legend live because he was very honest and normal, treated him like a regular person. Once again, I love the beef between Caraxes and Sheepstealer. Like, they are just nasty. I love the irony that Daemon and Baela are planning to kill or at least capture Vhagar when Rhaenyra is going to have Sheepstealer killed at the same time. It's super fun. It's a super exciting kind of dramatic irony that I love to see. And just like that, boom, there's a 4-dragon standoff. And it is pretty cool. It definitely doesn't not live up to the hype. To be fair, Sheepstealer's just getting jumped. Like, that's the situation.
Nigga, I got jumped in LA by some pussy ass niggas, and they jumped me, nigga. Nobody gave me the faith of a one-on-one, nigga.
I also love that Rhaenyra immediately helps and saves Rhaena, showing how much she forgives people and helps the people she cares about, and that her forgiveness has been framed and shown as a weakness, but right here it's kind of a strength. I mean, obviously we don't want Rhaena to die. I know Daemon's whole arc here is kind of a Lyra revealed plot, but it has the required history and setup to work for me. Both sides are understandable, and the situation is just messy enough with fair character motives, but you also got to understand, I haven't read the book. I don't know what I'm missing out on with Nettles, but I'm not mad about this either, and I did hear that Rhaena is kind of a nothing character in the book, so you let me know in the comments, what would you have preferred they do? In the aftermath, Baela stays consistent and immediately forgives her sister, showing how fast she got over the Jace stuff, including that scene from last episode that we're not going to talk about again. Alan receives Corlys's finger, knowing the Hightowers have been in possession of him now, and Aemon has been poisoned, but I have no fear of his death because Alice doesn't seem worried at all, and neither am I.
Idiot.
obviously this is not how it goes out. There are a lot of fake out moments in this episode that I don't really like the opening scene with Aemon and Alicent, weird fake out. I don't like incest fake out. And then there's another one with Helena at the end that's kind of a fake out. Things get gay with Rhaenyra and the White Snake again. And I'm not sure if it was intentional or not, but I love this side shot with the fire coming out behind Rhaena, kind of like she's breathing it. Like, that's pretty cool. Just like maybe, I don't know, a dragon. Aegon makes his last stand, and it's a glorious moment where Sunfire returns, looking like a zombie almost, the way he mirrors his owner. It's just, their connection is beautiful, and I just really like this scene. Even though I saw it coming from a mile away, they set up that Sunfire wasn't dead. It was still paid off very well, and that's kind of something you gotta expect. You can't always be subverted every time. Sometimes just a good story has a good setup and a good payoff. Not subverting expectations or anything. We end with Olaf finally getting his moment to shine and joining the High Towers, which is the betrayal I was looking for, but I'm really hoping that in the last episode he really does something that hurts Rhaenyra's cause. Doesn't just swap sides and that's it. I needed him to do some actual damage with that dragon like he's threatening here.
No. They will burn.
Main thing of note is that Ormond offers him the title of Lord of the Seas, taking after Corlys, presumably saying that after they kill him, he'll just have his title. And honestly, I did enjoy this episode. A lot of the storylines felt like they were coming to their payoff. The Rhaena Baela storyline, which I gotta say isn't my favorite, but at least this scene was pretty good. And a 4-dragon standoff is nothing I'm gonna ever complain about. We're really hitting a climactic point, and I'm excited for the battle next episode that I am just assuming will happen at Tumbleton. Rhaenyra and Daemon are at their furthest from each other ever, and Aegon finally stops being a coward, and it ends up working in his favor. And the scenes with the High Tower, Sheep Stealer, and Corlys were all super well done, but maybe a little bit underwhelming. The main weak point for me, of course, like the rest of the season, is Aemon and Alicent's storyline, which is just poorly written in so many ways. Like, why send Alicent to that castle with one soldier? I will not understand. And she doesn't even kill him. I mean, this is a really good episode for me, but it can't stack up to the best of the season, and I think it's going to go in the B tier. Under episode 3, Rhaenyra the Triumphant, but above Tumbleton episode 4. I'll see you guys for episode 5, the grand finale. Here we go in 3, 2, 1. Yeah, I'm recording this after the finale. I forgot to record last week's episode. I didn't forget, it just, a lot of things came up. Don't worry about it. Let's get into episode 8, The Treasures of Tumbleton. No, wait. I originally typed treasures. I mean treasons. Treasons of Tumbleton. That's 2 titles I fumbled. Before we get into this, though, I do want to say thank you guys for making it so far. If you made it this far and you know your favorite episode already, go ahead and comment that below. Let me know why. And also just subscribe if you're enjoying this video. It would really mean the world to me. But I just want to say, no matter how this finale goes, it was a solid season. It was definitely better than season 2. I don't think anyone's going to argue that. And as someone who just watched all 3 seasons for the first time pretty much in the same month, I do gotta say, I think I preferred to season 1 already as well. We'll talk about it more after the episode so we can view the whole season as a package, but I just want to say, season 3, you did a good job. Now, not to say it was a flawless season, but the biggest praise I can give this season is that it comes so close to matching the magic of Game of Thrones. I think this is the closest we've ever been, because we have all these players on the board at the same time, all these storylines moving concurrently, and some of them are merging, some of them are going away. It's super interesting, and honestly, I love it. Anyway, enough blabbering. Thank you guys. Let's get into episode 8. Emma Darcy starts the episode with an immediate amazing performance as Rhaenyra is petrified by the news that Aegon and Sunfire are alive. There's a really good scene with Baela and Rhaena right after that too, and easily it's one of my favorites that Baela has pretty much in the entire show. Emma Darcy's just really killing it in this scene, grabbing Baela's face like it's fucking nothing. And Darren gets knighted, which honestly means way more to me now that I've seen a Knight of the Seven Kingdoms. Mysaria finally gets fired, which I just honestly don't see why. I mean, I see why. Of course, she sucks. She's one of the worst masters of whisperers we've ever seen. But also, I feel like last episode really showed that she's kind of right about Daemon, but she still picks Daemon over Mysaria even after she gives up her boomba-clat that ra-ta-ta-ta-ta. But at the end of the day, I'm obviously fine with it. Lord of Whispers my ass. Alice finally drops her backstory, and yeah, it's pretty insane. That she's been alive for over 100 years, and the story is about her son, so that adds another weird thing to do with, you know, Aemon, son, relationship, husband, like what's going on there. But it's a really cool, interesting story, and I like the magic. So Helena has a tense standoff with Rhaenyra where she calls her Ugle to her face, and Rhaenyra just can't let that shit fly, so she makes her eat her words. Corlys' sons have a quick brother-on-brother exchange about the power that Alan's been receiving, and it makes me realize how little we've actually seen them interact this season, especially compared to season 2, where that was kind of one of the weaker storylines, but at least, we got some. It kind of just felt like we were getting a lot of them talking. We didn't know why yet, but now that we actually understand what their purpose in the story is, they don't got any time to actually talk to each other. The Hightowers have decided to use children on the front lines to make them literally as cartoonishly evil as possible. These guys are literally evil McEvil pants, Dr. Evil over here. I mean, it's like if we show Rhaenyra doing one evil thing, then we gotta show Ormond doing something 10 times more evil. So if she does something to one child against their will, then Ormond has to do it to a bunch of children against their will and make them die. Yeah, just you can't write this shit. Although you definitely can, and they definitely did write this shit. There's also a really good shot with Ormond and Caraxes in the background, just crazy looking. There's a lot of really good battle shots in this episode, but we'll get to that when it actually begins. The Greens pull up Project Hail Mary, and Gwaine uses Corlys as a negotiation tool to try to split the realm between the Targaryen and Hightower rule, which we know this doesn't happen. So there's not the most tension, but there is actually some tension in this scene that I really liked. Mainly because I didn't know if Gwaine was going to get out of it, and I've honestly learned to care about him a lot over this season, which is something I really wasn't expecting. He's the only true, nice, kind Green in the team, besides maybe Daron, but obviously he's being pulled 2 different directions. He is also a very honorable character, so this is an honorable way to approach the situation, trying to save as many people as possible. I have no idea who's going to die in this show, besides I'm assuming a lot of the main characters die in the end, thank God, but he would be one of the people I would not want to see you go, along with Daron, especially considering how little time we've gotten with either of them. The attempt is failed, but thankfully he doesn't die in the incident, and Gwaine comes back mostly intact, although he lost all of his money on his parlay.
The parlay failed.
The 2 blonde brothers reunite in an amazing scene, once again really reiterating how good Tom Glencarney's performance is.
I'm alive!
Aegon makes Aemon join him to take back Tumbleton on their own, bringing the Hightowers back in line with their cause to plan to eventually kill Rhaenyra and take the throne back for Aegon. And this is a storyline I can get behind. It makes me very hyped for season 4. Please don't take 4 years. Also, side note, did he really just leave Tywin Lannister behind? Is he okay? I guess I do kind of like that guy too. I mean, who would have thought? Especially at the end of last season. I guess it goes to show if you're just semi-decent person, I like you. The bar is very low in this universe. King's Landing has some crazy shit too. Trust me, it's not only in Tumbleton. Joffrey randomly appears. He's alive and chilling, I guess. Adam kills the High Sept, which just comes out of nowhere. I don't really see his character moving in this direction, killing the Pope, but I feel like this scene is really trying to paint Rhaenyra as crazy or evil for doing something like this, but honestly, I don't really care about the church, especially this one, considering not to be that guy. We know for a fact that this church, the Seven-Faced God, is not real. We know the Lord of Light is the actual God. I mean, we saw him bring multiple people back to life in Game of Thrones, so why would I give a fuck about this church? I know they have power, but not anything holy. And beyond that, I would have gone with a completely different tactic if I was Rhaenyra. I would be like, hey, all you other High Priestess people, does anyone want to be the High Priestess and declare me king? Because I'll just kill them and then you can take their place. Anyway, Rhaenyra is rocking some seriously intense makeup this episode. Football players should actually pick up this makeup technique. That's really fucking tough. Then we get to the big battle, the Battle of Tumbleton. And I must say, the old folks in the north are so tough, it's not even funny. I mean, Roddy the Rowdy is crazy, and it stands in direct contrast to the children on the other side of the wall, visibly afraid as they bang their shields and prepare to storm the castle, and a kid just pees himself. That's pretty mean. Show's kind of mean. We see them take the castle in a brutal massacre where many are shot and killed, but the main old guy we've been following the whole season, Roddy, gets to the top and just axes a kid in the face. It is brutal. I'll just put this image here. That's all I have to say. I mean, I really wasn't expecting it as well. I want to add that. I thought that was a line we weren't fully going to cross, especially because we didn't see that child get beheaded in season 2. So anyway, I'm going to stop saying stuff before I get demonetized. It also makes me think, okay, they're not going to use the dragons here because they already have dead kid blood on their hands. But then it's time for Daemon's attack, where they definitely use dragons, because Cunt Raxes here is just doing his plug walk up to the battlefield, and he gets some good moments. Oh yeah, and also kills 2 kids, which I guess is better than 3. I'll give him that. But then Daemon exhibits the most insane plot armor I maybe have ever seen, as he dives in with zero fear, and I have zero fear of him dying as well, even though there's a whole blockade of people ready to kill him, and I'm sure he would die here if he was any other character. But nope, he gets out, and then Brasso, of all people, has a total, like, baton-wielding stormtrooper moment where he just pulls up and puts up an insanely good fight. I mean, like, kind of puts belt to ass with Daemon. I wasn't expecting it, and I loved it, but it wasn't built up to at all. I don't even remember his name. I only know him as being Brasso. And I don't think that's just me. I think his name was said maybe once this season, but he really puts up a fight, so much so that he fucks up Daemon's eye and somehow outlives Ormond. You heard me right. Ormond dies right here in this battle. Ulf gets caught on the toilet and finally makes it to his dragon, but then we get to Ormond's death, and obviously, I think this is a good moment for Ulf. I'm glad that he just is a complete wild card, doing whatever the fuck he wants, hurting all the people that wronged him, but I feel so conflicted about Ormond here. Like, I am glad that there's some major character deaths in this battle, and I like how it happens, given how Ulf's been treated, and he's really just a vindictive crash out, only looking out for himself. I don't know how satisfying it is that he's the one who gets to kill Ormond. I mean, is it just me, or did Ormond not get enough time? Like, Rhaenyra and Ormond have never even met. Ormond hasn't met, like, many of the major characters in this show, and he's already dead. And Roddy the Rowdy also gets killed here, too, after, you know, putting something off his bum. It was a really good scene. I feel like I'm left wanting more, which I guess is kind of a good sign with the character, but there was definitely some potential there. And now I'm also worried about Darren's storyline, but we'll get to that when we get there. And then I wasn't expecting this at all, but we get a spoils of war, crazy finale of Game of Thrones moment where someone is looking around and seeing all the destruction of what war causes. But it's Daemon? Daemon, of all people, who has been in many wars and fought many battles and killed many a civilian, is looking around seeing how crazy and traumatic everything is. I don't buy it. Sorry, I don't buy it. But you do got to give Game of Thrones the credit that it does a great job showing the terrors of these battles and how many people are hurt, innocent people. Alicent shows up for a brief moment in this episode, and honestly, I forgot she wasn't in the rest of the episode. And truth be told, the episode was definitely better for it. And trust me, this is no hate to Olivia Cook. She's a great actress, and no hate to the character because she's my favorite character in season 1 until she gets destroyed. But finally, getting the ending, I just got to say, it caught me completely off guard. And I don't really know how much I'm into it. Like, yes, Helena was not happy there, but I don't truly believe Helena would kill herself and her unborn child, someone she's fought and survived to give birth to, with her mom on the way back. And given that she has a dragon, when I saw the window open, I thought maybe this would be the moment. We'd finally see Dreamfire come out and save her from the castle like Rapunzel, but no. I wrote in my notes I'm going to need some time to sit with this episode, but truth be told, I have. It's been about a week. And because of that, I have to be honest, I did love it. And I loved it here when I first watched it too. This episode was kind of electric. Like, so many storylines were getting great moments. Team Green has been characterized in a way I can never imagine. And though it's mostly getting carried by the spectacle, it also had a big moment where not only did a character get their comeuppance on one front, but they also got it on the other too. What? We have a major funny villain death, we have a major sad sympathetic character death, and a lot of people come close to death in this episode. Maybe I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure Darren didn't die. If he did, I'll be furious, and that would be one of the most wasteful character deaths I could have ever seen in all of TV history, but we will find out soon, and I'm pretty sure he's alive. Touching on Ormond one last time, like I said, just kind of a lot of wasted potential on that note. We never really got to see him use his heightened sense of smell against him, like Rhaenyra never used that besides maybe the guards, assassins that she sent to kill him. And I definitely don't feel like Roddy deserved to get the kill on him. I guess technically it was Ulf, but it was a kind of a cool combo. I'm also very excited to see the Aegon and Aemon storyline next season, and I'm sure they're going to take on the main antagonist role again. Aegon is a really interesting character, and honestly, this season has done a lot of legwork to make a great antagonist out of him. I just honestly wish they didn't spend a whole episode in season 1 showing how terrible he was, and how he assaults people and makes his children fight. That's crazy. But at the very least, I'm glad he's not doing a full heel turn. He's still pretty evil, just with a little bit more self-respect and a little less of a crybaby mindset. This is easily one of my favorite episodes of the season, and honestly, I may be out of my mind for saying this, but on first watch and after a week, I think I might say it's one of my favorite episodes of the entire show. Honestly, I loved it. and it's going to be the first S tier, making it the best episode of the season and quite possibly one of the best of the entire show. Conclusion and final ranking. First and foremost, looking back at this season as a whole, it deserves a lot of criticism. There are a lot of recurring issues, character writing moments, weird tropes that became patterns, you know the ones I'm talking about, and just some really inconsistent character writing overall. But with every low came a high, a huge character death, a battle twist. It was really reminiscent of high quality Game of Thrones, like I said. A lot of fun, interesting characters were introduced this season, and older characters got improved writing or more to chew on. For example, I loved Ormond and Daeron. I really enjoyed the Aegon and Loras dynamic, and both characters were ones who I didn't care for too much going into this season, but have become some of my favorites. Some people did get left behind in the dust. Aemon and Alicent are still pretty butchered, and Aemon had a very similar storyline to Daemon, who, once again, least favorite storyline of season 2. Alicent actually did have a lot to do, but was kind of just forced into the story as often as possible to make it feel more like Rhaenyra and Alicent dynamic when it didn't really make sense a lot of the time. But the political intrigue in King's Landing and all these different players acting in their own self-interest really kept me hooked this entire season. And let's not take for granted, we got 2 huge battles in one season. That is kind of unheard of. Both of these were high quality, and not just in production, but in writing and build-up. Pretty much the second half of season 2 built up to the Battle of the Gullet, and pretty much the rest of season 3 built up to the Battle of Tumbleton. Even the best Game of Thrones seasons maybe have one big battle episode. Season 8 is the only one I can think of that kind of has 2, with episode 3 and then episode 5, but obviously that's not quite comparable. Before I reveal my final ranking, I just want to say this was a delightful season to cover, and I enjoyed reviewing every episode very thoroughly. I moved to a completely different place, and a lot has changed in my life. Part of why I couldn't get this video out sooner is because I was so busy, but hopefully it's coming out maybe a week or 2 after the season drops. I'm going to be covering many other shows like this in the future, such as The Bear Season 5, I got Andor Season 2 ranking coming soon, and just let me know what other ones you want to see. And of course, if you're interested in anything like that, subscribe and hit the bell so you know when I drop a video. For the next live show I cover with weekly releases like this one, expect that video to come out right after the finale, I promise you. Anyway, this is my final ranking of the entire season and what I would rate the show out of 10. From worst to best, in C tier, episode 5, we have Unbowed and Unbent. In the B tier, we have episode 6, The Faceless Men. Episode 4, Tumbleton. Episode 7, The Dragon in Winter. Sorry, hold on just for 1 minute. I am going to amend one of my answers because originally in this video I put Rhaenyra, the Triumphant, in B tier, but I'm going to push her up to A, and she's going to have a new ranking. So let's go to that. In A tier, we have episode 1, Salt and Sea, Fire and Blood. Episode 3, Rhaenyra Triumphant. And episode 2, Queen's Landing. And finally, my favorite episode, in S tier, episode 8, Treasons of Tumbleton. Anyway, to wrap up with a final score, I can confidently say this is my favorite season of House of the Dragon. Maybe it's just because I'm covering it, but season 1 had this magic, I agree. And the first chunk is just absolutely amazing. But then it really falls off in the second half for me, except for 1 or 2 episodes. And episode 9 is one of the worst of the entire show. This season was much more consistent, enjoyable, and just thrilling. Now, to be fair, season 1 had a very different dynamic, storyline, and pacing, and also had very high highs and very low lows. But season 3 was just really consistent, while also having some high highs and low lows. But some characters were at their peak. Aegon and Rhaenyra, I think, have never been better, and that's kind of what you need to focus on for a show like this. And the side characters are full. We have way better antagonists now, and I'm just really enjoying what the show is going to. It's finally getting to the point where Team Black and Team Green are a little bit more nuanced, and the debate is more dynamic. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching one more time. Subscribe if you enjoyed it. I'll see y'all for season 4 in 4 years. I love you guys, and stay triumphant.